Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order with Commissioner Stubbs and myself present. Jamie's on his way. We'll recognize him when he comes in the room. We appreciate those who are in person and online at our meeting today. We begin our meeting with a moment of silence or word of prayer. If there's anybody in the room that wants to, is that Jamie I see coming in?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, welcome, Jamie. Okay, if there's anybody that wants to volunteer to say the opening prayer, let it be known now.
I will. Our dear, kind Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the blessing of being able to gather today and to watch our elected officials transact the business of the county. Pray that I'll be with them and strengthen them and inspire them, that they'll do the greater good for the residents who reside in this county, that opportunities will come and to the residents, and that they'll be strengthened in their lives. And we're grateful for this day, and as we open this meeting, and we do it in the sacred name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, if everybody will rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Thank you. Before we do our public comment, I'd just like to make a couple of comments. We were really saddened at the passing of Rick Bailey, who has been an employee of the county for many, many, many years. I think he is having some services this week with family and friends. They're invited, I think, Thursday night. And I was glad to see Lyman Duncan's boy back to Monticello. And
Thank you.
Wish him the best. We'll move on to public comment. Mac, if you want to take care of that.
Absolutely. For public comment, each of you will be allowed 3 minutes to make your comments. There's nobody here in the audience at all, so it's just us here on the diocese today in the building. If there's anyone online wishing to make a public comment, you can do so by raising your hand. Not seeing anyone raise their hand. If not, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. I'm not seeing anybody unmute themselves. Commissioner, that was your public comment period for today.
Okay, on our agenda, the consent agenda. Mac, will you read the 5 items on the consent agenda?
Yeah, so we got item number 1. You've got the approval of $10,646.21 in small purchases. $7,533.59 was for the emergency response booklets. $1,882 and $1,230 for the public safety building garage door and HVAC water treatment chemicals. Item number 2, approval of the June 15th to July 13th, 2023 check registers. Item number 3, approval of the commission and work session meeting minutes for May 16th, 2023. Item number 4, approval of the June 20th, 2023 commission meeting minutes. Item 5, approval of the commission and work session meeting minutes for June 6th, 2023. That would be it right there. He disappeared.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Oh, thank you.
Second by Jamie. Further comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. We'll go to item number 6. the post-secondary correction education program presentation. Is Sam there online?
Sam is not here. Sam, are you online? I am not seeing him online either.
Okay, we'll move on, and if he happens to come in or check in, we can go back and pick him
Okay.
up. Okay, item number 7, consideration and approval of modification of Federal Highway Administration Federal Lands Highway Agreement. Is TJ there?
TJ, let me see if, hold on just a second. Let me see if everybody's waiting out in the hall. TJ is not here either. Let me jump to his item. So this is an old project, spans the test of time. We've been working on this as well with the Federal Highway Administration to improve the LaSalle Loop Road. This starts in Spanish Valley and goes all the way up and over the top, and then back down. A couple of years ago, back in 2019, the federal government gave us an estimate to complete this and told us that, hey, if we wanted to go ahead and upfront all the funds, then we could proceed with the project. That was about $2.3 million. At the time, we were like, no, let's hold off. Let's not upfront all the funds. We'll wait for the federal government to come in with their portion of the projects. The project planned in phases because of the length and the cost. As the new phases approach, it's necessary to update contracts and cost funding. Since San Juan County contracts on the original agreement are no longer with San Juan County as far as the individuals, the cost obviously is increased. Modification to that contract was made to reflect those changes in here. And so if you look at the actual contract, you see those modifications, where the last attempt on modification 2 was 1.1 million, now 1.17. Now we're at that 1.1 in additional cost. Now we're up to 2.3 in total, and so we're hoping that we can get this project kicked off. We did receive comments from Sitla where there is a possible realignment as this road goes through Sitla lands. There's another route that Sitla would like them to take, and so we'll be working with Federal Aviation or the Federal Highways to work on this project and see if we can get that alignment incorporated in there to make it a little bit easier for Spanish Valley development. Also on here, just as a reflection of the total costs on here is $530,000. So it's a pretty steep price, and we definitely wanted to wait until the Federal Highway Administration had all of the funds necessary so that we can continue. It's kind of unfortunate as you see these Build Back Better funds and these grants come forward. This is a different pot of money than what you see from the Biden administration releasing the grants and that. But overall, I think it's just important to note that our take on there was that $2.3 million to be paid from road department savings. So that's kind of a history on the project there.
So, Mac, is TJ recommending that we approve the modification agreement?
Yes, and
Yeah,
TJ
I
just
am.
walked in.
You guys are quick today. You feeling all right?
Well, I'm feeling all right. How are you feeling?
Well, the modification really comes down to cost. The plan of what the road work's going to be really doesn't change a whole lot. It's just the increased cost of construction. So, but yeah, I do Because if not, we're going to be on the hook for the whole 30 million. So this
Okay, do we
is,
have a motion to approve?
We all need to go get us another part-time job. And I guess the longer we wait, the more it costs.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. They've actually pushed us. We were supposed to get this done probably 3 years ago. They just keep pushing us when they don't get their funds. And so every time they've done it, it's increased the cost and increased the cost. But it also increases our maintenance costs. So we have to go fix that road to keep it drivable. Every year they do this. And so we're spending between $60,000, $70,000 a year maintaining a road that we're going to tear up. And so that's the other drawback to it. So every time they push us, the price goes up and our maintenance cost goes up. So
So if you,
So Sylvia, did you make a motion to approve?
okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Sylvia, second by Jamie. Further discussion? No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. So I guess you can go ahead, TJ.
okay, thank you. We actually have a meeting this afternoon on it. So
Okay. You've got item number 8 also.
So we haven't been able to order trucks for over 2 years. They won't even open up the government pool to order on the state accounts. And so we've been holding back. Well, we're having some issues with some trucks, and they still haven't opened the pool for 2023 yet. And we're not sure when they're going to do, and then how much longer it's going to take to get the trucks. And so in the packet, it shows what the last quote was from them. They tell me there's going to be a 6 to 8% increase of what they are estimating. And so I found some fleet trucks from Labrum Ford, reached out to Ken Garf up in Salt Lake, the one in American Fork. Nobody has their XL model, so they're the rubber floor mats. They're the fleet trucks, and they've got 4 of them. With what's going on, I'd like to buy those 4 trucks. With some of the stuff with increased cost, I might have to use some savings to do it, or I have noticed our sales tax is up a little bit on my budget. And then we're also getting the new state money, Bruce, that you know about in July for B Road. They're giving us that big surplus that we've piled up in there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll get that money, and so I won't be over budget. It's just not in the original budget, and that's what I'm asking for. They have them in stock. We could pick them up. They have went in and done a fleet deal, and so if you look at the price on them, they're as comparable as a state contract as if we bought them on the state contract.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
A motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Jamie. Sylvia, did you second?
Yes.
Second by Sylvia. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Go get your trucks, TJ.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, TJ.
Next on our agenda is consideration and approval of the cooperative agreement for consolidated dispatch and price. I guess you've got that one, Mac.
Yeah, I'll take this one here. Several years we started migrating our 911 services over to Price and have been operating in Price almost a full year now, I'd assume. With that, there's partners that also pay for 911 services. And so we wanted to make sure that we had a comprehensive agreement that captured all of the amounts and all of the participant parties that help pay for 911 services here in San Juan County. With that, you have the National Park Service, UNHS, Blanding City, BLM, So those type of entities is kind of all that we're capturing on here, so that when they do pay us, or they can pay the state directly, is what we prefer. So we don't have to handle the money to pass through. So this agreement kind of codifies all of that into one. So you have it being signed by all of the entities on here as well.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Sylvia. Second.
I'll second, but I have some comments, Commissioner.
Okay, perfect. We have motion by Sylvia, second by Jamie. Further comments or questions?
Commissioner, I'd like to comment. This is Commissioner Harvey.
Go right ahead.
So commissioners, first of all, I'm fairly new to the process regarding our dispatch services being moved to Price, and I know that in recent meetings I've asked for an overview, so I know Mac's working on that, and he's doing his best to get us connected with kind of a tour of the facility and kind of an overview for us new commissioners to review the process. I think for me, my biggest concern is quite extensive, but I'll try to keep my comments to the point. I know there's some barriers that do exist. In fact, I was recently attending the National Association of Counties. Now that I'm with the Health and Social Services Committee there's been discussion on that committee about some challenges with emergency systems for states nationally. The challenges I'm referring to are the cell phone carriers themselves and their origins. For instance, if a person from Florida traveled to Utah and dialed 911 on their cell phone, they wouldn't get a dispatch in the state. They would end up getting a dispatch from their originating state. So they would be on the line with like Florida Emergency Services. And a lot of the states have shared that as being an issue. And there's current legislation that National Association of Counties is preparing to address that issue. And it has to do with probably the cell phone companies themselves working with the state dispatch folks to insert language coordination between the state feds, so that when a traveler out of state comes into a state, there's going to be programming so that when there is a real emergency, it'll go within the state they're visiting and not back to the originating state they're from. So there's some barriers there, which I'm going to build on for some of my concerns regarding how I view this when it applies rural. I know for us as a county, and Matt can attest to this, the state of Utah has been working on locating residences within the state and mapping them. And from what I've seen of the state's progress with mapping, there's been better and more accurate maps of rural addressing in municipal communities, like for instance Blanding, Monticello, However, when you look at the much more rural communities, for example, Aneth, Montezuma Creek, Red Mesa, Mexican Hat, Navajo Mountain, Old Jato, there is nobody on the state map. Uh, and so you would imagine that's foreign frontier, free and clear of anyone. But that is not the case. If my commissioners, if you're familiar with the reservation, we have community members out there. And I think if that is the case with the state mapping, my interest is in our cooperative agreement with Price, who is not in San Juan County, but is in Carbon County. I know that from experience. I was on my motorcycle. I had a busted tire, and I called my insurance folks who tried to locate me. And I had to explain to them I'm in Horse Canyon and I am on North Highway Road 262 with a flat tire because they were trying to coordinate a tow truck to me. They did not know Horse Canyon, and I tried to describe the terrain, and I tried to explain White Mesa. I'm just right under White Mesa. I'm near McCracken Mesa. No one that I spoke to is familiar with the landmarks, the land names, and any of the markers that most San Juan County folks are familiar with. I know that barrier exists with Price unless they've come down and toured by GPS and are familiar with our names and locations. And that's where my curiosity is with the folks that we're having this cooperative agreement with. Are they familiar with our landmarks? Are they familiar with our terrains, our locations that most of us who live in the area are familiar with? It seems in my past experience when dispatch was in the sheriff's office, you had county folks who were employed taking calls, who were familiar with our geography and our location. So those are just an excerpt of my concerns. I know there's more that we can build from this. I know Navajo Nation has been working on rural addressing. I know that AT&T has presented before the National Association of Counties, reporting they work with the nation on rural addressing, and they have a system that allows them to communicate in any terrain. I don't want to go far deep into that, but just some issues there, Commissioner, that I'd like to highlight that I feel we can work to improve upon. I know these concerns I present are relevant because I think my focus is going to be turning to working with county sheriffs and Navajo Nation and domestic violence victims. And I see UNHS being a part of this board, and they're going to be critical partners in working on, domestic violence victims, responding to victims on and off the reservation. And a majority of our county residents will be utilizing this system, and we want to be prepared for a real emergency where we're able to effectively respond to a victim who might be located in the most rural part of our county. And so these are concerns that I feel are important to present and bring to light. But these are some concerns I just want to highlight, perhaps as an opportunity for finding solutions to. I know that we should revisit the pros and cons, or maybe I need to be familiar with the pros and cons that were reviewed before we migrated our dispatch system from out of our county to Carbon County. But that would be important. But we have a lot of partners that are impacted by this cooperative agreement now. And I think since we're renewing this agreement, now is the time that we can focus on refinement and possibly working with our local communities to make this more effective for the citizens in our county. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, I think Jamie makes some awful good points. And I do think, Mac, it would be helpful to have the sheriff's department come over and meet with us in a work session to discuss how we got to where we're at today. Maybe you have some information you could share at this time, Mac. I don't know.
I think a lot of it was technology and costs. Throughout the state, UCA has been consolidating 911 dispatch call centers in different locations, and that was a big one that we looked at, as well as just taking care of the technology ourselves. That became pretty expensive, costly, as well as trying to hire dispatchers and keep staff, full. That was another one that we looked at. And so when it came down to the bottom of everything, when we looked at the overall costs of having it internally here and keeping the communication systems up and upgraded and with current information and that cooperation and coordination with the state, we felt that it was best to push it to price instead of having our own independent costs on there. There were several that continue to do their own dispatching. Graham County is one of them that continues to do their own. We knew that at the time there would be kind of this lag in information where the individuals like McCracken Mason, they wouldn't know that, the dispatchers in Price. But we're hoping through the GPS systems and the GIS mapping tools that they have, that all of that information gets uploaded and is tracked on the system, so that as they become more familiar with us, then it kind of helps aid in locating our people. But we can certainly continue to have conversations on how to make it more effective.
I have a question.
If I remember right, Mac, this was a process that involved the sheriff's department doing an amount of research as to how it would affect them.
Yes.
And the rest of the citizens, and they went through a kind of an extensive process to make the decision to recommend to the county commission that we switch over to Price. We've been with them about a year now. Maybe it's time that we take a look at how things have worked this past year. I think for Jamie and Sylvia's, to help them understand, maybe we could get the dispatch people or the sheriff's office people that kind of have the background on this, maybe come to a work meeting and we can look at how it's working, if there needs to be some changes, or the overall decision, how we feel about it. Anyway, that's my recommendation.
I just want to make a comment, maybe comment question. Do the each of the chapters have a map of the membership of the chapters where it can be put in a hard copy in a binder for the office and price where they can quickly be able to access addresses. Even if we have addresses, sometimes it's hard to find it. I know with the Google address system, it's a little bit easier to find people, but we need to kind of have a way to make people familiar with the geography, even if it's just the basic. And so, you know, Jamie, that each chapter has a map of their area and their members. And
I just was made aware by the election office that Utah or rural Utah counties,
Yeah, Utah Rural Project.
Utah Rural Projects has been working on
the Google addresses.
the
Google Plus. They've given us hundreds, if not thousands, of Google Plus addresses. And
That's something,
if they
and you
would
can look
combine-
at, you can find that with a phone. So
I think this would be a great opportunity to bring them to the table so that maybe we can bring their codes maybe that they have, their addressing. We want a robust addressing that's full, and perhaps that can help build the state system and at the same time support this agreement so that we're more effective. But I appreciate Chair Adams' comments in regards to let's bring together all the players and have these conversations together so we can make this a reliable system for the citizens in our county, and that we have the confidence of each of our citizens in the county that we have a reliable, effective emergency response system.
So, Mac, would we just table this agreement for right now until we get more information, or?
So on this one, I wouldn't recommend tabling it because it's more of just that cooperation. It's all the entities that pay into the system. So right now, we still have to pay the bills on there. You know, part of our 911 tax goes to this, but Blanding City, they would receive a 911 tax, Navajo Health. So it's just a means of collecting all the payments and getting it to price. But one of the things, so during this, as emails went back and forth on this cooperating agreement, I had asked the director there because I knew Commissioner Harvey had mentioned that he wanted to see the site. So it may be worthwhile to try to schedule a tour of the centers so that all the commissioners can go at once, meet with the 911 center, take a tour of it, look at their mapping system. In that same meeting, we talked about how they were going to be upgrading their CAD, their GIS mapping system, to a new system which would kind of encompass San Juan County in that. And so all of this kind of pays for the current communications that's taken place. And so I would hate to table this because then the county would have to pay 100%.
So the agreement today is to codify those other entities that along with San Juan County and how they're going to pay for this 911 system.
Correct.
Right.
Yep,
Correct.
that's correct.
And then if we voted to approve that agreement, then we could also go back with all entities involved in a meeting to take a look at what's right and what's wrong and
Correct.
what needs to happen. And that wouldn't affect the actual payment for the system.
Correct.
Does that make sense, commissioners? Okay.
Commissioner, I'm happy to support this. I'm looking at page 6 of the agreement, and I'm looking
Okay.
at the term of the agreement. It's under number 30. If we were to approve this agreement today, we'd be locking ourselves into the next 4 years as is. What if we, since we're agreeing towards refinement of this document, would it be possible to revisit this agreement annually? Would it impact any funding? Would it?
Yep. Mac, you'll have to answer that question.
So on here, any party can withdraw from this agreement just by giving notice within 6 months. So if you look at that item, paragraph 32, so you can get out of this, the entities. So if UNHS wanted to withdraw from the system and not pay for 911 services, they can get out. Planning City, National Park Service. So all of those entities right now, in the past, have always paid the county for 911 services, but now where it's switched to price, all this agreement really is affecting is that change that now they can pay price instead of just paying us. But literally any of us can jump out of this with just giving that withdrawal notice. It's hard on government contracts. It's typical that you have what I call them an escape clause due to funding. If you don't have the proper appropriate funding to fund those items, then you can get out of it, and that's what that paragraph 32 allows for. So even though it's a 4-year contract on there, people can get out of that.
So basically, what we're trying to is figure out how we can work with within the reservation. So the adjustment will have to come for the people in that area, because whatever we have right now doesn't affect the other area.
They're affected.
And so if we bringing people to the table and see how we can facilitate their participation, and so we can serve the people better. And
Yep.
Is there? I haven't completed reviewing this document, but is there provisions here of a meeting, sitting down to meet? Perhaps we could insert language that requires meeting at least by minimum once a year. I think it's important we bring all the players to the table. We want a robust addressing system for our county anyways. And so could we insert language so that all the parties sit down face to face?
Yeah, on page 5, there's the advisory board that's formed on there, and we had a meeting. Commissioner Adams was in that meeting with me, and I came late to it. Sheriff Lacey was there, as well as other members. Had the city of Blanding on there, as well as some of the federal agencies were in that meeting. I believe they committed to having that meeting quarterly on there. And so if you look at paragraph 5, that's where the advisory board comes into place. And so if you think about this, outside of the architecture, all of this just forms that local committee to help, especially where you had raised those issues. We had seen, Commissioner Stubbs and I had happened in on a meeting down in Red Mesa where the Navajo Nation's 911 system, they were presenting on upgrades that they were doing through the Navajo Nation for 911 services. And in that, it was specifically mentioned that, there in Red Mesa, some of their calls for 911 go to Shiprock instead of Price, and their frustration similar, was, well, why are we bouncing to Shiprock, who doesn't know us? Kind of that same comments. They wanted it to go to Price, who doesn't know us, but they felt comfortable. Red Mesa did with more of them being dispatched out of Price than Shiprock. And so I think overall with this advisory board, we can get kind of that sense. Before we made the change, Sheriff Torrenson went around to each entity and said, okay, how do you feel about this? And received kind of their approval before we made that transition. But I think, Commissioner Harvey, to your point, that's as they grew back again on this advisory board, we'll get their take. Right now, it was just let's get the contract in place so that we can have this formalized board at a local level, and then give feedback to Price of what's working, what's not. If we can get a meeting with them, so that you can kind of see the architecture behind it, how that is working, and then make the recommended adjustments after that. Or, the other option on the table is just bring it back in house.
I'd like to ask. I'd like to make an ask. My ask would be two things to keep it simple. The first one is let's focus on a method of building a robust rural addressing system for our citizens in San Juan County. That's countywide, not just focused on municipal. And so that would bring our attention to all the rural communities throughout the entire county. What that ask will require is bringing Utah, the rural plus codes to the table, and then working with the state of Utah and their rural addressing mapping so that we can complete that. And my second ask would be let's continue locally to meet together. I think Sheriff's Department, I know the chapters, respective of the chapters, the 7 chapters in our community, they can comment and share some of their barriers that we can help address. And I think if we can continue to work with our rural communities, even Bluff, even Navajo Mountain, Old Jato, I think, and White Mesa, I think we can have not only a confident emergency system, but a robust and accurate system for our citizens in San Juan County. So that would be my two asks, commissioners, and you have my full support.
Okay, I think those are reasonable, and I think those are things that we can work towards as we get all the players together and give feedback to Price. And I think Jamie brings to light some very good points, some very good input. So we need to continue our funding of this project, even though we may not be up to speed on all of the parts that need to be addressed. Would it be okay if we took a vote on the funding portion of this prior to addressing these other concerns, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and a second. We've had good discussion. We're going to try and address some of these things. With that said, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay, my phone just,
Now, on
Lost
this
me.
one, Commissioner Adams, it does request a San Juan County Commissioner or representative be a part of the voting member on the board.
yeah,
I think
I
maybe
think that's in the agreement.
it
isn't
is,
it?
yeah, and I think it would be good to have Commissioner Harvey on that.
Yeah.
To where I know Commissioner Harvey,
Yeah.
your time is just as precious as everybody's, but
No,
if we get you there, then
This
you have
is
a seat at the
yeah.
local table.
that would be wonderful. This is very important to me and all of us down south. So, yes.
Sylvia, you're okay if we appoint Jamie to that, aren't you?
Yes,
Okay, we'll just make that appointment, Jamie, to you on that board.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, number 10, consideration and approval of a single event permit local consent I think this has to do with the upcoming solar eclipse. Mac, will you give us some background?
Listen,
Yeah.
we've got Lyman will give us an update.
Okay,
I can.
Lyman.
As you know, recently we had a local consent form in front of us for Glamping Canyonlands to allow alcohol to be sold within their fenced-in area, right around their little kind of restaurant or meal area. They wanted to put together a package for the solar eclipse. I think it was a 2-night, 3-day. And by just distinguishing it as kind of a package, the Department of Alcohol and Beverage asked them to apply for a single event permit, even though the alcohol would still be served in that same fenced-in area on their property, and along with food. So it seems like we've already covered this, but they are asking, the DABC has asked that this consent be presented to the commission, and I present it to the commission today for your vote, for your review and approval if that is appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. So we have that request before us. Do we have a motion to approve the single event request?
I'll motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Jamie. Do we have a second?
I guess I'll second.
Second by Sylvia. Seems like these kind of events enhance the value of San Juan County as having wonderful dark skies so that we can see things like this. I don't know that it has to be in the dark of night, but the eclipse, I think, occurs during the daytime, doesn't
And
it, Lyman?
it will be dark at that moment.
We
Oh, yeah, it'll make it dark.
Doesn't matter what time of day.
Okay, well,
I was not hesitant, but I was thinking about, is that a time to comment? That
sure.
wonder, as we have this type of license and we have, for a period of 2 or 3 days, whatever, do we gonna have extra security for people to make sure that they're not driving or?
I think that's the events organizers, kind of their responsibility, Sylvia, and certainly law enforcement.
No, I was just
Well-
wondering, even for the whole event that we're gonna have in San Juan County, are we gonna have extra policemen on the roads? I don't know.
We have been working on all of that behind the scenes with all
Okay.
of the cities and towns throughout the county,
Okay,
highway
Well, I
patrol,
know,
state of
Okay.
Utah, everybody, FEMA.
I know at my house, I'm gonna tip a bottle of homemade root beer to the sun and enjoy the event, but
Some frothy, yeah. But yeah, I can discuss what's going on behind the scenes. Absolutely.
Commissioner,
yes,
this is Larry Ellerts, and I apologize for jumping in, but I've actually experienced one of these solar eclipses before, and it doesn't go totally black. You just see the shadow move across the sun, but you look at it through a reflective means.
well, there's no need for any homemade root beer then.
Oh yeah, there is, but invite me.
maybe we can
Okay,
make a solar eclipse brand.
we have a motion and a second to approve this event. All in favor, say aye.
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 I also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. So it is kind of exciting when one of these things happen and you get highlighted in your area. We'll move on to number 11. Lyman, this has to do with delinquent property tax sale.
Yes, recently we held an online property tax sale. We had 2 properties that had gone delinquent and spent a significant amount of time tracking one of the owners of the property now. We were finally able to reach their grandchildren who knew about the property. But the property that has come up was approximately 300 yards south on Peters Hill, across from Rough Lock Restaurant. So that was about 2.5 acres. It was sold to Blue Mountain Holding Enterprises for $8,942. The other property was within the city of Monticello on the south end, and it was largely just a driveway. It was, I think, around a third of an acre, and intersected some sheds and part of one home. And it was bought by a family member of the individual who had passed away. And that property was purchased for $2,187. And I present that to the commission for your review and approval today.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the sale of these two properties?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Sylvia,
I'll second.
second by Jamie. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Lyman, you have the next one, a resolution for final tax rates.
Yes, thank you very much. If in your packets, if you look at the one that has the colored county logo, my name across the top, I didn't realize that so many documents had been placed in from the file which I submitted to Municode, but this is the main one. And what I have done is I've typed what during this process, I was working with the Utah State Tax Commission and their staff there, and they helped significantly in the process. And so for 2023, we came up with rates for the general fund, the library fund, tort liability, and public health. The other rates were set in conjunction with the Utah State Tax Commission for the water district, the 2 cemetery districts, the county hospital. And there's probably 1 or 2 that I'm missing, but so all of them were set. The state said that they were appropriate calculations. And in doing so, if you'll notice that in the center part of that document, it has real property at $680 million for 2022. It increased to $707 million for 2023. Centrally assessed went from $325 million and dropped to $294 million for 2023. And personal property increased from $83 million to $90 million, a $7 million increase. But overall, 2022, we had $1,089,388,000 in property. In 2023, it went up by $3 million to $1,092,214,000. And so the estimated revenue is listed below for the general fund of $2,078,500, which is approximately about $2,500 more than last year's property tax rate brought in. Library was just slightly more. Tort liability, again, was just a little bit more, maybe 1 or 2,000, and public health just a little bit more. And so I recommend that the commission approve these certified tax rates, and with the hope that future growth and prosperity will come to the county, and that we'll be able to increase our budgets and provide more services to the residents. So none of these are rate increases, so we're not going through the truth in taxation. It's just the certified rate that the State of Utah Tax Commission has worked with us and is approved for your approval now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I continue to be disappointed in centrally assessed properties.
Absolutely.
It just seems like they just continue to go down and ship the tax burden to the individual property owners. But
Yes.
it just doesn't seem like any of our efforts to whine about that fall on any ears that care. Do we have a motion to approve the tax rate as explained?
I'll motion.
Motion by Jamie,
I'll second.
second by Sylvia. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed, Lyman. All right, next we have 4 or 5 items from Grant, our public health director. Is he online?
He's here.
Commissioner.
Oh,
hello.
he's there. I see him. Okay. Okay,
Just hiding
Grant,
off screen.
you're up to bat. Let's all have a cigar together.
But, maybe a sugar-free candy cigar.
Bubble gum.
Yeah, as long as it goes with your homemade root beer.
Have a nicotine free.
No, yeah, if you need a nicotine patch, those can be very effective for tobacco cessation. Speaking of, thanks for the nice introduction here to our tobacco cessation and prevention efforts in this contract. This is a continuation of our existing contract, so nothing new as far as new efforts or new funding or new objectives, but just wanted to review it briefly for you. You might notice here we use the term commercial tobacco to distinguish between from traditional native tobacco practices, which can have a medicinal or other sacred role. And so here we're really focusing on commercial tobacco. As is said, nicotine is an addictive part of that, as well as very harmful in and of itself, increasing a major cause of cancer nationwide. And so you can see there's different parts to this. This helps fund our activities to inspect the tobacco vendors in our county. Many of our stores sell tobacco products, commercial tobacco products, and so this is a chance for us to partner with Youth Coalition as well as the sheriff to make sure that those employees are trained well, as well as that they uphold the law around legal use of commercial tobacco. You can see a little bit for e-cigarettes, which is a rising concern. We do have a few vendors in the county there, so those are for those inspections. But the total amount for this next fiscal year up through June 30th next year is $2,024,400. Any questions about this contract?
Okay, with no questions, do I have a motion to approve the tobacco contract amendment number 6 for the health department?
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Motion
second.
by Sylvia, second by Jamie. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay, Grant, move along. And environmental services.
Thank you, commissioners. So this one is focused on the part of environmental health that is under the Department of Environmental Quality. For example, Division of Drinking Water and other aspects of DEQ. You can see the list of the different activities here: air quality, drinking water, upholding related federal laws, water quality, and even a new thing, mercury. So we've established in Blanding a place where people can come to dispose of any mercury they have for maybe some old thermometers or something that they're trying to get rid of. So that's something that we're using that funding for. You can see at the very bottom about $500 specifically for that. You can see the breakdown. There's general funds, air quality compliance, drinking water, used oil, and then the mercury. The total amount for this next fiscal year, which is $73,498. So,
Okay, do we have a motion to approve this? I get this contract for fiscal year 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Sylvia,
I'll second.
second by Jamie. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 I also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Now we'll move on to the WIC program.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is actually a small amendment, if you will, compared to the total WIC funding. This is, if you note under fiscal impact, this is just for a $6,770 specifically for travel related to a national WIC conference that staff attended. 2 staff members attended in San Diego, kind of in after the COVID-19 pandemic. It had been a while since they'd been trained and gotten up to date on kind of the latest to help WIC families, children, moms really reach their best health and get on their feet moving forward so that they can have a healthy life and a successful life moving forward. And so this is just what this amendment is focused on, is actually a reimbursement for funds related to that travel for that conference and training.
So now, Grant, that they're trained, are they going to offer WIC services in Monticello?
So I have good news there. We got off to a good start yesterday in the parking lot here. Hopefully you saw the sign up that said WIC Clinic. So it was the northeast corner of the building, northwest corner of the parking lot, parked there. We did really well up until 2 o'clock, if I might be honest. The generator went out. We're not totally sure if it was the heat. So that was powering the cooling system for the whole mobile unit, but they stuck with it. You know, the goal was up till 3 o'clock that's usually like, we want the last client to start at 3 o'clock. Did get a little hot at that point, right? But we saw a lot of families come in. The focus this time was on existing families a little bit more, definitely open to new, but that was the initial focus, trying to make sure we're got it all established well, but we're glad to report mostly really good, just that generator issue. So we're hoping to get that checked. Next month, we'll want it to actually coincide with the food bank coming in the parking lot too, hoping that can be kind of maybe a similar audience, right? And so, yeah, we're really excited to have that off to a good start though.
Well, good. I appreciate that. I'm not in the county this week. It just wasn't hot enough for me, so I'm in St. George for a few days. So, but I appreciate you doing that. I think that the need exists. So on the WIC program amendment number 6, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Jamie,
I second.
second by Sylvia. Further discussion?
I have a comment.
Okay.
As a former early childhood educator, I really like WIC. I think it's one of the things that makes a difference in children.
Mm-hmm.
I started a little daycare next to the college because the children were left in cars and things like that. And that was before WIC. And children came from Kool-Aid to different kinds of drinks in the bottles, and the health issues that they had because of the lack of
good nutrition, right?
nutrition,
Yeah.
including I have a little boy that he was 12 months old and he couldn't walk yet.
Yeah.
And it was just a lot, it seemed like his bones were not strong enough and all kinds of infections. But when WIC came over, the children were happier.
Yeah.
When you have a cranky little child, I learned through the years, is because they lack in vitamins, certain kind of vitamins. And so it's amazing what this program does, not only to the children, but to the mothers as they being nurtured to give life to them. And so it is one of those good programs that has good return.
Thank you. Yeah, healthy moms can then have healthy children and then grow up and have a healthy society.
Yeah.
And one quick thought too is that things are pretty complex these days for parents. You've got screens all over.
Yeah.
And so it's not just about physical nutrition, it's also kind of nutrition as far as the environment. And so how can we help empower the moms and the parents to say, oh, what are some options, as far as helping your kids, a little bit of screen time when they're a little older is okay, but when they're younger, what are options to, still entertain and things like that.
And
so
what happened when you climb
and teach.
the pyramid of needs? And you
Yes.
wondering about where the food's going to come from.
Right. Basic necessities.
You know, when I was a teacher, I used to give an example to my students, and okay, what's the difference? A mom that's in the bottom of the pyramid and one that's above. I said, in the bottom of the pyramid, this mom has $5, went to the store, bought some milk and a loaf of bread. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And the little 3-year-old one helped herself and spilled the whole milk.
Yeah.
The mom, in desperation, probably become very violent. Versus the mother, they have 2 gallons of milk because
Yeah.
it has more. She can help the child, and let me help you clean up.
Wow.
It's not so, but sometimes that is the
Just a
difference
little bit of support.
between them.
Yep. And we try to help with the emotional support as well.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Security,
the whole
not feeling
picture.
like desperation. Okay, what are we gonna do now?
Thank you. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion before us. We'll vote on it. All in favor of the WIC program amendment to the contract, say aye.
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 I also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Now, Grant, you've got the Building Resilient Inclusive Communities Amendment.
There we go. Thank you, Commissioners. This is also a simple amendment. It's actually just an extension of the date. So the original termination date was very short for this, July 31st, but it's been extended to December 31st of this year. And this is in support of food security efforts in the area. And so the total amount for this year is the same, but just that extended time. So the total amount for this year is $15,500.
Do we have a motion?
I'll motion.
I just looking at the date, January 1st, 2023 to December.
So it's been
Okay.
extended. The original
Okay, this-
end date was this month.
Okay.
And it was only half a year and it was a little
So
tight,
it's
but they actually
December.
gave us
Okay,
an
thank you.
extension. So this one's pretty
So
simple.
did you make a motion? I'll second.
We have a motion by Jamie, a second by Sylvia. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 I also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Grant, you're not off the hot seat
Not
yet.
yet.
Let's talk about Utah Indoor Clean Air Act.
And I apologize here. I made a mistake apparently on my staff report version that I uploaded. Mac, I can see the look on your face. What's going on here? My mistake there. We are trying to talk about the Indoor Clean Air Act. You can see the summary had the right content there. I apologize. We'll have you scroll to the next, the first page of the contract, Mac. This is the Indoor Clean Air Act is, for example, people not being allowed to smoke in a public building or in a business or even within a certain distance of an exit. And so this is some funding to support that. If I might point out in the contract itself, for the next fiscal year, July 1st through 2023 through June 30th of 2024, it's actually 1,123. Again, my apologies for that. The
Okay.
total across multiple years is listed there on that first page, the 5,615.
Do we have a
Sorry for the
motion?
confusion there.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Sylvia,
I'll second.
second by Jamie. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 I also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
I did have that,
Moving
just so
on,
you're
Grant.
aware, on the, just for the agenda's sake, I did have that corrected on the agenda. And so the agenda reads that we were approving the Utah Indoor Clean Air Act 2023 agreement with the Utah Department of Health and Human Services. And so separate from his item, I had corrected it.
Thanks for
Or
catching
no.
that, Mac. Again, my apologies for the error in uploading that.
I got your back.
Appreciate it.
Okay, number 18, Grant.
Thank you. So this is a different facet of environmental health. This is a portion of more local environmental health. The funding here is for the next fiscal year, 11,538 is focused on our reporting of local activities. And so some examples here are inspecting food service establishments, That could include special events as well. Any opening of new facilities, making sure that there's connections with food handler permit and training programs, and other related activities. So this 11,000 approximately is for us to pay for our environmental health director and inspector to report on these to the state. Any questions or comments about this?
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Sylvia makes a motion, Jamie second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Grant, appreciate that.
Thanks
that
for
all you
covering
have
all
for
this.
us
That's
today?
all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
You're still looking tall, Grant.
And tell,
These shoes I got. No, thank you.
tell all your people we appreciate them.
Appreciate the note, especially about WIC.
Yeah,
They put a lot of heart into it. So thank you.
That's it, bye.
Okay, Mac, number 19, the Airport Entitlement Fund.
Okay. So as we went through and looked at the project, just as a reminder, out at Cal Black Airport this year, we had the all-weather operating system, which kind of notifies pilots what the weather conditions are like at Cal Black Airport before they fly, during their flight, after their flight. They can check this system. We were required to upgrade our environmental report on there, our NEPA. They performed the NEPA analysis when we initially took over the airport from the National Park Services and the BLM, prior to doing any of the major construction out there. However, with changes in federal law, FAA required us to upgrade it again, even though no other Native Americans have moved in and left artifacts, but just because their standards are a lot different, they had asked us to upgrade that. And so because of that, that delays us. We wouldn't get the information back from the state history SHPO, so state history something. They're the ones that kind of help review that NEPA analysis out there, and we wouldn't get that back until the end of July, which would make it too late to actually put out the bid information for our Cal Black project. So because of that, the funds still remain there, allocated from the FAA, and they have asked that we take those entitlement funds. The total, we had $150,000 sitting there for the project. They would like to take $21,000 of that, transfer it to Escalante Municipal Airport, so that they can do their project this year with it, and then next year when it comes about to do our project, they transfer the funds back to us. So it's literally kind of a way of reallocating federal funds from our pot of money to another airport pot, and then they reallocate us back to make us whole when it comes time for that AWAS project. And so you'll see these throughout the years, as we can't, if we don't use all of our entitlement funds, or if we can't do the project that year, then they reshuffle those. The entitlement funds come about when we put our capital improvement plan, and they require a 5-6 year capital improvement plan. The FAA funds their percentage right up front for those projects, and so throughout those 6 years, and then the state and the county has to fund their portion. 10% is what the state and the county have to come up with on our portion of the funds for these projects. And so that money just kind of sits there and floats, but in the overall organization, if we can help out other airports, there will be times when we need the funds as well. They will help us out on those federal funds so that the counties and the state doesn't have to put in more than that 10% that we're required. And so that's what you see today, is just that agreement to transfer those entitlement funds over.
Do we have a motion to approve the transfer to Escalante Airport?
I'll motion.
Motion by Jamie,
I'll second.
second by Sylvia. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 I also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay, Nicole Perkins, she is up next.
This is a contract. It's a contract similar to others that we've done before that would help support funding for our interlibrary loan services, where we borrow books from other libraries throughout the United States to help pay for things like this postage to return. This grant will cover the cost up to $6,311, and it's a reimbursement grant. It's just pretty standard as from the past. So,
Okay, we appreciate you bringing standard things to us, Nicole. I don't know if we can handle things that aren't standard. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Sylvia, second by Jamie. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Thanks, Nicole.
thank you.
Number 21, MAC, the CJC
CJC MOU. Okay, let me scroll down to this one. Okay, I'm going to tee this up with a video on CJC. Hopefully we can get it to play here. So let me see if I can get it, so bear with me just a second.
As a mom, I was terrified. I knew that it would change my life forever. But I also knew that my girls came first, and that sexual abuse is not something that can be hidden inside a family.
Is my kid going to be okay? That's the number one question that all parents want to know the answer to. And I think that the reality is that when we're able to utilize the Children's Justice Centers and the professionals that work within the Children's Justice Centers, most often the answer is going to be a resounding yes.
A misconception that people have about the Children's Justice Centers is that we only see children who have been sexually abused, but I think it's really important to recognize that children can have a variety of things happen to them that would benefit from being handled by a Children's Justice Center.
The first step was, you are safe and you were right. This is uncomfortable. This is wrong.
As a mom, and knowing that she just had to tell her story this one time, and it was going to be in a private, quiet setting with not people walking around, that eased my mind a lot.
So it used to be that before we had Children's Justice Centers with active MDTs or multidisciplinary teams, that each agency or profession who were involved in the care of an abused child did everything separately. The idea that we can have a centralized place where the child is given the opportunity to tell her story or his story one time, and that story can then be shared with all the people that need to know what happened so that they can go do their jobs, it is a huge, huge benefit to children for not having to go through their story over and over again.
We have learned that the voices and experience from all the professionals who deal with children bring value and perspective to an investigation and a prosecution.
A lot of times parents perceive the process to be similar to what's on television. They expect that, you know, the detectives are going to be gruff and very stern with their children, where that's completely opposite.
They understood that they were still working with a child. So I wasn't an investigation, I was a child.
You've now given me the tools and my friends the tools. There's a lot of professionals now that you don't have to carry this burden anymore.
The reason they're coming is so that we can make sure that their body is okay. And even when they don't show signs or symptoms of anything going on, sometimes people worry that there's something wrong with them. So my team's job is to make sure that their questions are answered in a way that they can understand and that somebody can check them and make sure that they're okay.
For parents, I think a lot of times they come in there and they don't have the answers. They might not even have all the questions that they want, you know what I mean? They're kind of in a lost place. And so the CJC can instantly start to answer some of those questions and then also provide them an ongoing avenue of resource and support.
You're going to be treated with respect. Your child is going to be treated with respect. You can take this horrible, horrible incident that has happened and make something positive out of it.
They know that families are coming through the door because they are experiencing the hardest thing that a family should experience. So nothing really needs to be said. You're just taken care of.
The Children's Justice Center really brings together people and teams of people to start that healing process, to start looking out for the interests of the family and the kids.
We have a large number of children's justice centers that go from the Idaho border all the way down to St. George and out into the basin. And the neatest thing is seeing how each one is representative of their community. And they all look different, they all have different feelings, but they all are providing the same service.
Coming into the CJC allowed me to realize that I wasn't the one in trouble here. It was so nice to have that comfort in a time where I was unsure of myself and I was trying to explain and get out what had been locked up for so long.
With the right circumstances, a child can find some real positive, empowering experiences. Being able to say, with protection, you hurt me and it made me feel bad and it's not okay, that's powerful for a child.
Many, many years later, I come back here because I had some vague memory that I loved it. And when I walked through the door, it all came back to me. And then all of a sudden, there was no other place I'd rather be.
I know that I needed their encouragement. I needed them to say, it's going to be okay. Your children matter. And they need to have the best beginning of their healing process. And the best beginning is to bring them to the CJC.
Okay, I appreciate you paying attention to the video. I know it was a little bit long, 6 minutes, but I think it kind of explains the CJC efforts in total a lot better than I could. My history with CJC spans a couple years, obviously back to Davis County, as we've seen just the importance that CJC had there in Davis County, even so much that they were at your 4th of July events in the park. They were there for the 24th of July, seeking funding, seeking assistance, seeking board members. So their active role in the community, and the community knew that there was a CJC there. Here in San Juan County, we have a CJC. We've had CJC for years. However, that CJC has been coupled with Grand County, and it would kind of depend on the strength of the director being able to balance two different entities. I mean, you're fully aware that Grand County is a lot different animal, different demographics than San Juan County. So different needs, different uses, and throughout time, those directors have either paid a lot of attention to San Juan County or minimal attention. For this last director, outgoing director, she seemed that she would come in and pay a lot of attention to San Juan County, our efforts, and our people, our culture, and then that kind of faded away throughout time. And so with that, as we looked at CJC, what it is here, San Juan County has always, like I mentioned, participated in the program. We have the annex, what we call the annex building in Blanding, that is comprised of our CJC center. You've seen some of the centers that were in the video, a little bit nicer than what we do here in San Juan County, but nevertheless, we have had that program. But when you talk to individuals on the outside, like the school district, that's really where that known CJC here, it becomes less and less. And so, and you're aware, as the state AG's office, and we have an ally kind of in that office rooting for San Juan County, or she grew up here in Monticello and her heart still remains here, and we continue to try to get her to come to work here. But nevertheless, she fought for additional funds this last year through the legislation and was able to receive more funding that went to the CJC system statewide. And with that comes about, and I've talked to you in the past, is this opportunity for San Juan County to break from Grand County and have just 100% San Juan County CJC. There is, in the past, she had mentioned statistically, and maybe it's not known because we don't have a lot of cases. Typically, we're around an average of 13 cases a year that go through the CJC system on the investigative side for sexual abuse. But it's interesting when you look at those statistics and you look at some of the statistics that our previous attorney had come up with. They had indicated, and this was reported a little while ago, back in 2020, I believe is when we had looked at this research. Back in 2000 to 2010, the county averaged 4.1 reported cases of sexual violence per year. And then that average jumped from that 4.1 cases to 18.75 cases a year from 2011 to 2018. In 2019, the county had 21 cases of sexual violence. And then our county attorney's office, they, in that 2020 year, they had been prosecuting 47 crimes of sexual violence, with 38 of those 47 crimes being committed by a student in the San Juan School District. So this isn't a problem that is just in North San Juan County. This is something that is coming out of the school district, which is only comprised of Monticello and Blanding and Bluff. 38 of those 47 crimes, that's a lot, 38. I haven't updated these statistics on there. But what I feel, and you can correct this if I'm wrong, I think we are undercounted, underreported. As I've spoke to the new CJC director in Grand County. She'd acknowledged that things aren't getting reported. It's either they're not being reported from CPS or not being reported from ourselves. And so one of the hopes is, that if you'll allow us to keep a CJC and either work with the state to fund a part-time or full-time individual, that we can try to sever ties from Grand County and have our own CJC that's not tied with Grand County. It was interesting when this last individual with Grand County and San Juan County had been let go. San Juan County, we weren't in those discussions. We had no idea that Grand County had terminated employment, and then we find out after the fact. Well, that's typically been our management of CJC. Is our management was done through Grand County, so whatever Grand County deemed important, that's what the CJC director did. And then obviously you have the state guidelines that they have to adhere to overall. But nevertheless, I don't think San Juan County has really been a focus. And I know from those, as you look at it, you look at the cases, you hear of the cases down south, the missing and endangered women, the missing and endangered children, cases not being reported. I think there's an opportunity here for CJC to step in and gain the trust of the people, and I think that's what's super important, is gaining the trust. If you have Grand County doing it, then they're not going to gain the trust. I know you have a comment, Sylvia.
I had done 30 plus years of working with children, and I'm going to tell you about a case I had, and the reason why probably people don't report sometimes. Sometimes I remember I started doing daycare, and I had a little child, a little girl, 5 years old, and she was so different. She was very aggressive and trying to do certain things, and couldn't understand her. And I went to a training about signs in children that have been molested. And one of the signs was constipation, and this little girl was always constipated. And after I sat on through the lecture about children being molested, I put it all together. And there was 3 little girls in the family, and one was a baby. And as you changed her diaper, she was different than the other ones. I mean, than any other baby. There were so many things that I didn't recognize before. So then I noticed that the father, well, I always dropped the oldest little girl later. And then so one day I said to the mom, is that a reason why she always coming later? And she said, no. Okay. So I said, I'll call you next time. So I called, and they find out that the father was molesting all 3 little girls. And we went through the process trying to help. They moved really quickly. Quickly, they moved out of town. "15 years later, this young woman, her life had been so ruined, and she was trying to take this person to court, and I had a lawyer call me, and he said, you remember this little person? I had done hundreds, 200, 300 children more, perhaps. For some reason, I didn't remember her name. I remember her name, all the details. And the lawyer said, they'll wonder how can you remember so well. And it was so traumatizing to me, because when we confronted the father said that he was abused by the grandmother. So here's a three generation. And I was thinking, if they would have stayed in town and they would have got help, like a program like this, how much better their family life could have been. And because of that, there were separations and all kinds of stuff. But I am for something like this. I know you introduced me this person a couple times, and I feel like we need something like this, because it's a suffering. And the sad thing is, children that are molested, they become children molesters. The children molest other children. And sometimes we protect our children from adults, but we're not protecting them from children that have been molested. And so I would support 100+%, because it would help families. It would help families to heal. And I thought how sad it was when learning about this grandmother having been molested, half part of that generation, you know, have been going, and it is something that and I have been with other parents that had the children molested, and they just don't function. It's just like they're trying to block it, like it's not happening. And it'd be nice to have a place to go and talk, and I know they do it in a gentle way, you know. I know they have that, but anyway.
Now, for the sake of transparency, we do have CJC. It continues to exist, and Grand County currently covers us. What the proposal is overall is we would take up until October and get everything ready to go to make that transition. So Grand County is willing to continue to offer CJC services for San Juan County up to that point. This is something that the state of Utah is willing to fund us in. Obviously, there's county participation in and making sure that we're managing it. We're managing it to the state standard, as well as that we're taking care of the building and providing support. And so we don't have all the answers right now of what it will look like, what the shape is, but I think having it continuing to operate under Grand County really kind of does a disservice. What I see and what I hope at the end of all of this is that we can have a CJC throughout the whole entire county, and that includes the South. I know Commissioner Harvey has made great strides in trying to get more caseworkers down south. Well, this is something that can participate, and if it's here in San Juan County, it's embedded in San Juan County. Somebody that, you know, if we can't get a local, it's closer to our hearts, it's closer to our culture. They know us, and it's somebody that we don't have to call away out of another county. There will still have to be participation with Grand County. The nursing exam rooms that take place, if an individual does have to have an exam, Children's Hospital, they come down and do that in Grand County, and so we would still utilize those. We don't have the facilities like that here, but what we can offer is that safe person. I've expressed time and time again, it's when you looked at that organization chart, CJC supports all of the entities, whether it's school district, it can support the Navajo Nation Police, it can support Blanding, our sheriffs, our attorney. It shouldn't be housed in one. It supports all, and that's what I think it's important. This MOU that you're looking at today is to try to get the buy-off of all, and maybe it's not all a buy-off. I'm hoping that, you know, this is something that the sheriff's office and the attorney's office does support, because at the end of the day, if we can help one individual, we have helped one individual, and it perpetuates.
In the generation,
Absolutely.
You stop the cycle.
The hard part, and something that's going on right now, is if we're not reporting and we have our sheriffs and our police doing the investigation, and I've mentioned this in the past, I'm probably one of the worst fathers, because as I'm driving down the road, you know, I'll tell my kids, there's the cops, you know, duck, you know, and so I create that knowledge in their heads that the police are bad. And so for me, having CJC that isn't a sheriff's officer or isn't a police officer, that's neutral, that is safe, in a safe environment, they open up. I've seen the results of individuals that are talking to a mother or a father in that type of a setting, outside of a officer, uniform wearing individual. They open up more about it, and that's why those videos are taken. That's why the interviews, they go through that process. The sheriffs, the deputies, and the police officers are kind of behind the smoke glass mirror, and so it makes it safe for those individuals to speak freely about what had just happened. It's tragic, but it's also, with that, is the education that comes to the parents, the resources that are available through the parents. You know, right now, if you're waiting for Grand County to come and do that, then you're waiting, you know, and hopefully if we can bring this closer to here, then we can kind of help push it and foster the program. I think that that's also critical is right now if they stop literally, at Blanding or a Bluff, that's where it stops. And I think the need, seriously, in speaking to some of the women here, there's a need throughout our whole entire county for this type of services, and having somebody here that is full-time or part-time and it's fully supported by our sheriff's office, our attorneys, the police, then it'll go a long way. I think there are broken links that have, throughout the years stand the test of time, but I think those links can be broken. I think it's a matter of getting somebody in here and trying to hire the right person that can become the director here and just take off running. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but at least we can say we tried. We tried to make a full-blown effort of improving the safety and the ability for little kids to report and little kids to feel safe to report. When you look at some of those cases that I had one lady stop in my office and tell me that this wasn't a safe place to report. That San Juan County is so small, and she didn't want to report to the local authorities, didn't want to report to her mother, couldn't report to the religious institute, because all the time they had been taught, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this. Well, it happened, and she got in trouble with it, and because of that, bad things happened. CJC and hopefully what we can do is get them into the school system so that they're safe, so that individuals know that there's a safe place that's neutral, that you can go and you can talk to and you can find help. I think for me, that's the most important part. If you're looking at our cases dwindling here, I think it's actually opposite. With all of the things that we see happening around us, the amount of pedophiles that are increasing, I don't think we have a true representation of really what is here, but we really won't find out until we take this on and start running with the program and start educating our citizens that, hey, we have this opportunity here and it's a safe place. I could go on and champion this.
I think the boots on the ground are if you talk to the sheriff's office and the attorney's office and the CJC, they all do not want to be separate from Grand County. There's a lot of benefit there. So I'm just saying, before you make any decisions, you need to do some more due diligence and talk to the boots on the ground, the people that are actually involved in all this, and see how they feel.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the MOU with CJC for San Juan County?
Motion.
Motion by Jamie,
I'll second.
second by Sylvia. Further discussion? Seeing none,
Comment. Well, I'll
Okay.
hold my comments till my report. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay.
Commissioner,
All in favor, say aye.
well, Commissioner, before you vote on this, there was one change that Commissioner Harvey had requested on here that I wasn't able to make before the meeting, is adding the Utah, for some reason, UNHS. So Utah Mental Health Services as part of this MOU.
Okay.
What this represents today is a beginning of the process. We're hoping that we can get everybody's signature on the MOU. We're the first in line, and we'll continue to proceed to try to refine this, as well as, like the attorney had mentioned, there's concerns that they have about that effort. So sorry, I wanted to interject that information there and the change that we would have to make for UNHS to be added to this.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Number 22 is a request to reconvene the Board of Equalization hearing. So do we need to go into Board of Equalization, Mac?
You do.
Do you have a motion to go into Board of Equalization?
Motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Jamie, second by Sylvia. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye also, that's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Is Rick gonna present this?
Rick is here.
I'm here, yes. So what this motion is, so Phil Glaze is the owner of property at Wilson's Arch Community. And last summer, he was in a really bad car accident. So this is in 2022. And he missed all the deadlines and dates for him to come and request before the county a Board of Equalization on his properties. And there are about 80 parcels that he's requested this for. So because he missed our deadlines, he has to go to the state and appeal that fact that he missed our deadlines. And so the state of Utah listened to his case, and they granted his request for the county to have this Board of Equalization for his properties. And this is on the 2022 values. So this is last year. Now, with this Board of Equalization open, we can discuss his properties there at Wilson's Arch. And Phil Glaze and Don Howe did come and speak to me personally, and we went through this, through his properties. And we found an error that we had met, well, we had, so what happened, Wilson's Arch properties are very desirable properties, and they're very valuable properties. And we had looked at those when we did the tax roll last year, and we said, all these properties are very expensive. They're selling for a very high price. And so let's value them like we need to at market value. The state requires that to be at market value. Well, part of the phase, so it's phase 2 at Wilson's Arch, we didn't realize at the time was just vacant land. Had no improvements whatsoever. Improved lots at Wilson's Arch, so you have water, electricity, you have a road, you have a sewer, septic system, are going for about 60 some odd thousand an acre plus. Okay? So he came to us and said, that's not correct. These lots are just raw land. There's no improvements. There's not even, there's a dirt road. That's it. There's no electricity, no water, no sewer, nothing. And so we agreed with Phil Glaze, the owner, that phase 2, which is about 80 parcels again, should be revalued back to the 2021 values. And we agreed with those. Also at the time, we said we were going to take these out of Greenbelt. There was no agricultural production on those. And he did not disagree with taking them out of Greenbelt. So we're going to proceed with that. And that rollback, there'll be a 5-year rollback on every parcel on the Greenbelt status. But the value will be the 2021 value, not the 22 value. So on the second page of the handout, in the red section, so the values of these 80 parcels was approximately $6,499,750. That will be adjusted down quite a bit. And so the tax value was going to be at $60,842 for the property tax for 2022. And the rollback, which will happen this year, will be $73,750. Now, with the correction that we're going to make on these, the values, the tax on the properties, the real property will be about $6,000, and the rollback taxes will be about $6,000 as well. So we're going to go from approximately $130,000 in taxes to about $12,000. With those change in values on those 80 parcels.
So this is where we start crying because we don't have as much money. Like me and my husband and our chicken.
Sure. And that's why we're here today.
Okay, do we approve this in Board of Equalization, or we just hear it and then come out? Mac?
Are you seeking approval today? I know that
Yes.
this is the first time everybody's seeing it. All we had is the notice that we had to reconvene.
Yes, we're seeking approval for the convenience of today, reconvene this Board of Equalization, and also for the approval of putting the property values back to a 2021 value. And that value will be for 2022 and for 2023 going forward until until they develop the properties. They actually sell one of these parts. I mean, they haven't sold any of these. None of them are improved. So, yes, we're asking for the reevaluation of these properties. Because we feel it's correct from the assessor's office. It's correct and right to do for these 80 parcels.
Rick, do you know how the error in valuing these properties happened? Was it with one of the appraisers that you brought in, or what happened here?
No, it was based upon, we're always kind of in a rush towards May to get the tax roll closed. And we'd had some really good sales on so Wilson's Arch is kind of divided the property up. You have the east side of the highway, and then you have the west side of the highway, and then there's a little canyon that goes down through the property, and beyond that to the west. So there's 3 areas. And the east side,
Is that one just a few homes, the east side?
yeah, it has all those little homes up on the east side. It has, I don't know, over a dozen homes on the east side. The west side has 5 or 6. And what happened, we went through and looked at all those, and in our haste, you could say, we missed that far west side, and we just made the assumption that everything had been developed. There had been water, there had been electricity, everything had been put over there, and that was on our side of the thing. We should never have changed those to begin with for phase 2 of Wilson's Arch project. And we didn't catch this until Don Howe brought it to our attention. He says, this isn't right, and Phil.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the change?
Can we go in executive session?
Well, so this is what the amount that we have right now is what they have paid in the previous year. This 12,000 is what they paid. The $12,085.91. Is that what they paid?
So
The last year, not the last one, but the previous year. Is that what they paid?
So for this total of 80 parcels, after they do the rollback taxes, their taxes will be about $6,000 a year.
Okay, oh, okay.
So the rollback tax will be a one-shot deal, just 1 year. They'll pay that, and then going forward, they'll just
How
owe that
much did they
$6,000.
pay the last time? Did they pay taxes?
I didn't look that up.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Okay.
Each parcel is different.
So, okay, so this is, okay,
There's 80 parcels.
so this is not the total for the 80 partial. This is just the rollback. Okay,
Yeah, it would be the total of all 80.
okay. I'll make a motion and
Okay, do we have a second?
This is a first time. Kind of like what administrator says. This is just a notice. Must we make a decision now?
So you are the Board of Equalization. You 3 commissioners.
I don't know the answer to your question. I know. So,
but the
are
thing-
we? Did we publicly notice it correctly that we're making changes to the tax? The answer to that is no. But I don't know with the Board of Equalization if you have that. The agenda. What we had on the agenda for the Board of Equalization. States consider a request to reconvene the Board of Equalization hearing, which is kind of the document that we had from the Tax Commission,
Right.
asking the commissioners to reconvene. We don't have anything on the agenda to just consider and approve adjustments.
So that's what the Board of Equalization is, actually.
So we need to reconvene to discuss this, not pass it.
So can I go forward with this? So if you deny this request, then they'll proceed with they'll appeal it to the state.
Yeah, no,
I think it's more about timing. Can we put this on the next agenda and have it considered
was-
as an
just
approval
kind
to
of, we
the
can kind of
modifications?
look at it.
I don't know. It's up to Lyman. Lyman's
That's
actually
what-
the clerk of the Board of
that's what I would
Equalization.
recommend.
Yes, I do believe that that would be appropriate. We're also having hearings on August 28th and 29th for other individuals to come to the BOE to request changes to their property valuations. We would be putting that information into September's board meeting. So I don't know if you want to do it next commission meeting or just move it all the way until September, where we bring the whole package together.
What do you think,
Rick,
Rick?
would that be appropriate to do one of those 2 times?
Oh, sure. Because what we're doing now is we're affecting this year's taxes, and also I don't know what he paid for last year. So if he overpaid last year, then of course if you approve the reduction in the value, then he'll have a refund. I don't know if he paid.
Hey, no,
I don't think he paid, did he? I don't know.
I
just
think-
waited for the process.
I
Yeah.
think that
Table it. Well,
when we see 100, and, the large figure amount, and then we see 6,000, for me, it's like, okay, trying to figure out, are we losing, I mean, I know it's not a loss because it was a mistake made, but I think having time for us to digest a little bit more
Okay,
probably be.
sure, because
Yeah, I agree because we've convened. We are here. We've just heard the numbers. So
And we don't have all the numbers. It'd be nice to know a little bit of the history of the number.
Commissioner Stubbs did make a good point about previous payments.
Yeah.
That would be appropriate to bring to make
We
comparisons.
could-
But if we go.
Definitely.
In my head, I thought we're going for $100,000, $100,000 something dollars to a $6,000 is like, okay, are we gonna give idea to other people that can come? We go bankrupt as a county. I don't know. I never said that's the reality, but that's how it's playing in my head, thinking about.
So when Lyman said the August Board of Equalization will be with an impartial judge, Judge Kelly, and he can make some recommendations
Yeah,
as well.
that would be
Yeah.
best. So
So what?
move to
You wouldn't-
August meeting with
Yeah, you wouldn't have to have a vote on this today. You would
Okay.
just, at least on the modifications to their tax, we would have to properly notice that. So we reconvened. And then we will just repost this on the next August 1st agenda.
I
Unless you wanna
think
wait
we're
until the
correct in that, because in the past, when we do a Board of Equalization before you commissioners, we've always presented
The hearing.
what was, and then what's proposed. And we've had those documents before you, so,
Yeah, and we
and to the
haven't-
public as well.
Yep, we hadn't had these. So.
That's true. Very true.
So we can try to get it on August. I don't think this necessarily has to go through your
Judge,
because it's more of correcting an error rather than a valuation.
correct.
And so
Yeah, that's a good way to look at
Good
this.
thing we had to figure out.
okay. So we just heard the new numbers, and so we'll
yep, and then we'll just put it on the next agenda. So it's not even really a table. We had reconvened and
We just moved to
looked
the
at the
next
new
step.
information. We'll put it on the next commission meeting for Board of Equalization for approval.
Bet.
Then these
They're
will
good.
be it, so I can take these and just put them. I'll just put them on the Unicode, get them ready for the next commission meeting.
So what we'll do is we'll take,
Or do you want to make adjustments and you can get the adjustments to me?
we could use this document for the public. This would be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because it is the correct version. And for Sylvia, Commissioner Stubbs' question, on 2022 taxes paid, it does show how much was paid
Okay,
on that. It's about the 6th line over.
okay.
Just notice that,
I
yeah.
think you have the 2021 taxes paid,
Was
2022.
$4,442 last year. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct. 4,400.
And then
So
you
we're gonna
see
go
the
up a
bump
little.
because of the green belt, the rollback. And so that's kind of why you see the 1,000 go to 4,000, and now you have this $73,000 rollback adjustment.
And I'm gonna go and
Very good.
get familiar with the lingo too. Can I, before you go, can I invite you to see something? I wanted you to see, you wanna come back, can I invite you?
Or you just lift up your book.
Well, I can minus a part. Come on. This is for just today.
Yeah, it's all right.
And this is a small one, because usually sometimes, it's not a criticism, it's trying to educate the people, because sometimes people ask me question like, we don't have the background, but every paper.
Sylvia,
Uh-huh.
Sylvia, maybe we could just come out of Board of Equalization and then you can ask
Okay,
Rick questions, because we're still in Board of Equalization.
okay,
So apparently we're not going to take an action on this. We're going to address it at a future meeting of Board of Equalization. So do I have a motion to come out of Board of Equalization?
motion.
and I'll second.
Motion by Jamie, a second by Sylvia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I also. Okay, now we're back in our commission meeting. Sylvia, if you want to have some discussion with Rick, go ahead.
No, I just want to show you, because sometimes people question if we just hear and we just listen and we vote. But, this come to us at home, and I had two computers reading the agenda and reading the stuff, and then I go looking for words, different things. So, and this packet takes a lot, lots of, each presenter bring us, give him.
Sure.
Anyway, so I just wanna, sometimes people ask me question, and one time I put it up and I showed it to the people, not to complain or anything, just to educate, because I had no idea. The first day I came over here and I saw the binder, and it was nice because it had all the items with explanation and anyway, so
Good.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, I guess, any other questions? Bruce, any questions?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, go have lunch. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
We'll see you, man.
Okay, next item on our agenda is to have commission reports. Who'd like to start?
Every time I prepare, we don't have it. When I don't prepare. Let's see. I had a couple of meetings I attended, but one of the things I'm going to be doing this weekend, I think, is we're honoring Merlin Grover as the cowboy of San Juan County, and we'll be going to the rodeo. He'll be honored there, and I'm gonna go and participate in that. And I had a chance to visit with him, and he is just so delighted by this, and so I think it's an opportunity that we have to honor citizens, and we should take any time to have an opportunity to honor those citizens and recognize their contribution to our county. And so, anyway, Commissioner, we're doing our reporting. So I just finished mine, so.
Okay.
Okay, Jamie?
Just a couple of comments in regards to some efforts in down south, and most likely for Department of Health and Human Services as well. We've had a couple of meetings now. Public health has been involved. Most of the focus has been on figuring out solutions for having more CPS available for Navajo, those victims, child abuse victims that are on the Navajo reservation. San Juan Counseling has been to our meetings. San Juan School District has been to our meetings, and Juvenile Justice Services has been to our meetings. And recently, when our administrator, Mac, introduced the CGAC initiative, it's going to be a critical piece in the efforts that we're working on together to make a more stable and reliable reporting system, a system that will strengthen response to child abuse. And now that our conversations are ongoing, it seems that there is also need to find a better response for elder protection services, also for victims that are on the reservation. I know that one area that is very true is underreporting, and it seems that the underreporting, part of the underreporting is due to the lack of confidence, for one thing, because a lot of the victims that are on the reservation, a lot don't have the confidence that there would be effective response or any response to the matter. The second part of underreporting seems to be due to lack of knowledge about reporting. There's a specific number for child abuse, and there's also another number for elder abuse. And so I think as we move forward in meeting more often, did the servers just go out? As we move forward in meeting more often, we're going to work on strengthening reporting efforts. One agreement that was made that we're going to encourage the public and elected leadership within San Juan County is please report child abuse and elder abuse. Even to the state of Utah intake, we're focusing our efforts in identifying numbers that are reported for victims that are off or on reservation. And the current best practice for anyone to report child abuse or elder abuse is just report it, even if it is on reservation, to just report it, because that data is necessary. And that data is important because the state itself segregates data from on-reservation victims and off-reservation victims. And the more reporting that there is, not only does it escalate the case to becoming a case that requires investigation, but it allows the state to then present reported numbers to the nation so that the nation is aware that there are reports of child abuse or elder abuse. And so that's, I think, important to share with the public is please report. UNHS has a practice of reporting to the state and to the tribe. And when you're reporting child abuse, you have a specific number to the state. And then when you're reporting child abuse, you also have another different number that the tribe has. And it goes the same with elder abuse. You have a different line for elder abuse with the state, and then you have a specific number for the tribe. And the complication with the tribe is the tribe has 5 agencies. And because San Juan County is near the nation, you have Northern Agency, you have Kayenta Agency, and you have Tuba City Agency. So really, when you have tribal abuse victims who live on the reservation, there's 3 jurisdictions that is involved. And yes, they do have their own numbers. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen. And I think as leadership, we can solve that issue. I think one thing we can do is probably post and make those numbers available on the county website for child abuse for the state and for the nation, and the same for elder abuse for the state and elder abuse for the nation. But the bottom line is please report. Just report, irregardless, off-reservation victim, on-reservation victim. Let's get that data. That's going to be critical. I think that's just going to be my extent of my report, and I'll continue to share this information within my respective chapters. And at the tribal meetings that occur, Navajo Utah Commission, Utah Navajo Trust Fund, and the more ground that commissioners also can cover, that'd be great. So I'll leave my report at that. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, I've got two short things to report. Number one, I don't know if we ever recognized the good work that Mac and the staff did to go to the CIB and get $28 million to remodel our jail and our courtrooms, but that happened, although it won't be actually funded until our funding meeting in October. And the other thing I wanted to report to the commissioners is that on July 31st, the San Juan County Fair starts, and it goes from July 31st to the following Saturday. There's lots of activities that are advertised. If you want to go to the concert on Thursday night, we got a really good performer, and the runner-up to American Idol will be the warm-up act. There's rodeo activities, junior livestock activities, a lot going on at our fair. There'll be a mud bog, mud volleyball. Anna does a great job with the fair, and so we just want to make Sylvia and Jamie and any others that are listening aware that the fair is coming up really soon, and we want everybody to participate. I will be around the next couple of weeks, pretty close to home, as my wife had surgery yesterday and had some vertebrae fused in her back. So hopefully we'll be home the next couple of days. That's all I've got to report. Is there anything anybody else wants to say? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 I also. Okay, we're done with our commission meeting.
Thanks,
Anything
Commissioner.
else, Mac, before we sign off?
Nope, that was it right there.
Okay,
Say hello to
Thanks,
your
everybody.
wife. Say hello to your wife. Tell her we're praying
Okay.
for her.
will do.
Bye.
Thanks.
You must have good friends at the CIB.